This is part 2 of Photon networking with Unity. Now that we have our UI set up, we're going to work on the scripting. But before we do, we are going to organize our structure a little bit. So I'm going to select the assets folder over here in the lower left, right click, create folder. I'm going to call it scripts. We're going to leave that right there. Select assets again, right click, create folder. I'm going to call it scenes. I'm going to drag my main scene here into that folder we just made called scenes. Once again, select assets, right click, create folder, call it prefabs, and we're going to throw our room listing in there. Okay, now that we're a little more organized, let's jump into the asset store, which is this tab right up top. If you don't have it, click window up the top and then choose asset store. And do a search for Photon networking. I'll show you what it looks like whenever you type that in. Generally it should be the top left. It will be the free one. So click it and click import. If that says something else such as update, that's fine. It just means that you've used it in the past. And I want everything but the demos and the changelog. So I'm going to uncheck those two and then hit import. Once that's imported, you'll get this little window here that asks you to put in your app ID or email. If you already have a Photon networking account, you should know this. If you do not have a Photon network account, go ahead and grab one now and get your app ID. Once you enter your app ID and click setup, you'll be shown your Photon server settings to the right where your inspector is, and you will see your app ID and a couple of other default settings. You're welcome to change the region, but leave auto join lobby unchecked. We don't need the asset store anymore, so I'm going to jump back to my scene window. Now we need to go into the scripts folder. So select scripts, right click in the open area here, create C# script. I'm going to call it DDOL and open it up. This is going to be a very simple script. You can delete these two usings up here, the collections and collections generic. We do not need those. I'm going to change start to awake. I'm going to put private in front of it. Going to remove the update. And all I'm going to put in here is don't destroy on load this. So whatever I attach this script to, the object will not be destroyed between scenes. I'm going to go back to Unity, right click, create C# script. I'm going to call it player network. Open that up as well. Like before, change start to awake, make it private. It is private by default, but I like declaring what it is so I know specifically. I don't need the update function. Erase these top two, system collections and system generic. And I'm going to make this a singleton. So I'm going to do public static player network. I'm going to call it instance. And then under awake, I'm going to do instance equals this. And now I need to make a name variable. We'll do public string name get private set. So I want to be able to access this from anywhere, but I only want to be able to change it from within the script. And then I'm going to do name equals, and my name is Distal. So I'm going to put Distal. You can use whatever you want. And I'm going to do random.range. So anywhere from 1000 to 9999. So this is just going to give us a name, something like this. And that's going to be used to identify ourselves later once we hook up the lobby code. So save that script. Make sure your DDOL is saved as well. Go back to Unity and add a new game object. So game object, create empty. I'm going to call it DDOL. I'm going to add that script, the DDOL script that I just made. I'm going to have DDOL selected, right click, create empty. I'm going to call it player network, and I'm going to add my player network to it. And what this is going to do is when we load our scene, it's going to bring in the DDOL game object, which has the do not destroy script on it. So anything underneath this object will not be destroyed between scene changes. This is very useful if you want persistent data between changes of scenes. I'm going to do a little bit more cleaning up before we continue. I'm going to hold event system and just drag it under canvas. But at the very top, I'm also going to delete directional light because I don't need that. And I'm going to collapse canvas once more. Now we need to make a new script. So under your scripts folder, create C# script. I'm going to call it lobby network. I'm going to open it up. I don't need this update method, but I do need the start one. And under start, I'm going to add print connecting to server. This is just going to go to our console so we know what's going on. And we're going to do Photon network dot connect using settings. And you have to specify a game version here. This could be pretty much anything. Then save. And we need to add private void on connected to master. This is something that's built into the Photon network. I'm going to do print connected to master. And then I'm going to do Photon network dot player name equals player network dot instance dot name. So as you can see, I'm getting a lowercase option when I do that because name is also a property of a class. So I'm probably going to rename this actually. So I'm going to go over to my player network script and I'm going to rename the name variable to player name, and I'll get this little light bulb. I'm going to click that, rename name to player name. Be sure to save. And now you can see that it updated over here as well. So once we're connected, we set our player name and we're going to join the lobby. So Photon network join lobby, type lobby.default and save. You may be wondering where I'm getting this from, the Photon network join lobby or the void on connected to master. I actually have the Photon API pulled up here, and all you really do is just look through these functions and see which best fits your description. So I called join lobby, and now I want to be notified when I join that lobby. If I scroll down a little bit, I see on join lobby. If I were to click this and read through it, I would understand that this is what's returned after I join the lobby. So that's what I need. I'm going to go back to my script. I'm going to add that in, private void on join lobby, print joined lobby. Save everything. Let's go back to the project. I'm going to make a new script. I will call it create room. And now I'm going to open that script up. I don't need the update or start, so I'm going to delete that. I will be using Unity Engine .ui. This is so that I can access the text script of our input field. I'm going to do serialize field, do private text room name. I'm going to make an accessor. Private text room name, get return room name, and I only want to be able to get it. I do not want to set it. Now I need to make a method to call whenever I click the button, the create room button that is. So I'm going to do public void on click create room, and it can be named whatever you want, but it does have to be public. And now I need to call the create room function built into Photon network. So I'm going to do if Photon network dot create room name, which is a variable up above, dot text print create room successfully sent. And then else print create room failed to send. If you get this failed message here, it means that you're not connected to the server yet when calling the create room. There'll be a second message you get if you try to create the room and it already exists. And that is, I believe, on create room failed. Let me check. Yeah, so it's on Photon create room failed. On Photon create room failed. And it uses an object, code, and message. And the documentation says that the second parameter is the reason as to why it failed. So I'm going to do print create room failed code and message 1. And now I just need to use the Photon override for when the room was created successfully. So that's void on created room. Print room created successfully. Okay, save your scripts, go back to Unity. Now we need to tell our make button to perform this action. So I have it selected right here in the hierarchy, the create room button. And I need to add my create room script. Now it's asking for the room name, the text script, which we'll be reading from, and that is the input text under the create room input. We'll drag that over. And now we need to set an on-click action. For the object is where you place the game object which contains the action you want to call. We have the action we're going to call in our create room script, which is under the create room game object. So that's what I'm going to drag over here. And under no function, I'm going to go to create room, and I'm going to choose the on-click create room that I made earlier. If you don't have the on-click box where you can select something or drag over your object, just hit the plus sign and it'll add it in there. So save. Let's give this a shot. So I'm going to type in something random and hit make room. And say create room successfully sent. Room created successfully. So right now we're actually in our own room. You can't see it yet because we haven't set that up, but we do know that it's working.